You might think I'm clutching at straws here.
I love these sort of horses that you can put a line through when they run in June, July, August.
Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, once again kindly sponsored by BetMGM. I'm Dave Young. This week I will be in the host seat. That means I'm joined by Andrew Mount, as well as Housewives and fans' favourite Matty Sutcliffe. A few people wanted him back, and we have managed to wangle Matty back. So on that note, the last highest video we got that was like most liked was when Matty announced his engagement, 152 likes. This video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, but more importantly, make sure you click like on the button. Thousands of you view this, just click the like button. It's free to do it. Helps us anyway. But we're going to crack on and look at the fact we've got 6 good races coming up this weekend. There is an absolute plethora of decent racing across this side of the sea and on the Irish side of the sea. Group races galore. We've got 6 races for ITV, as I touched on. We've got 4 of those coming from Doncaster, 2 coming from Chester as well. But we'll quickly just talk about last week's weekend watch, because we did all right. The naps weren't so good. However, Andrew and I both agreed on another horse. We had Glenfinnan a couple of weeks ago, and good old Holloway Boy went in for us last week. I'm sure that's much to the disappointment of Matty, who put up Prague at a big price in the week in his column, but well, that's racing. Andrew also gave us Epic Poet. I gave you Chagran, and I also gave you Calpana that I told you was way too big a price. 3-1 the night before the race, went off at even money. And then Andrew gave us a few from elsewhere. We might get some of the same this week. He was only a nose away with Takarib Bay at 7-1. So look, I think we're coming into this week in decent form. You guys know that Matty knows his stuff too. So fingers crossed, we can have a pretty profitable week. So first race we're going to cover is the 150 at Doncaster. It's the Champagne Stakes. It's a Group 2 over 7 furlongs. We've got 6 runners that have been declared. No Amora City in here. Could still run in that Group 1 Vincent O'Brien Stakes Sunday at the Curragh. That shows how good the racing is this weekend. But we do have the Vintage Stakes runner-up in here. Wolf of Badenoch. He's a course and distance winner, and it's another course and distance winner, Chancellor, for Cheveley Park and the Gosdens, that actually heads the market. Right there, right now, has come here. He's had like one on his debut under Rab Havlin, but Rab Havlin's obviously riding for Cheveley. We've got the unbeaten Bay City Roller in here, and then Aidan O'Brien chucks 2 horses in here who are currently the outsiders of the entire field. So, Andrew, it's a pretty good-looking Group 2 to kick off with, considering we've only got 6 runners. Where did your pin land in this one?
Yeah, tricky one. Worth remembering last year that Rosalien was odds on for this and could only finish 3rd. Yeah, these juveniles can improve so much that we can get a few funny results in this race. Although I keep coming back to Chancellor, the likely favourite, just because of that course form. He runs it, won by a combined margin of 8 lengths. The only time he ran elsewhere, he was chinned at odds on at Asphalt. He started as favourite for all 3 starts. I thought he had an obvious chance. I wasn't particularly keen on right here, right now. The form of that wide margin Newmarket debut win hasn't worked out. So I think every horse behind him who's run since has been beaten at least once. Wolf of Badenoch, maybe flattered by that Goodwood run. Have you seen Jamie Spencer ride at Goodwood when there's cut in the ground? He seems to excel at sort of coming late and picking up the pieces on outsiders and getting places when, you know, the others have sort of taken each other on, and he'll often finish second without necessarily being on the second best horse in the race. So I wasn't usually keen on him. I thought if I was going to have one, another one or one for the forecast, it would be Bay City Roller, unbeaten. Back all New Bay juveniles over 7 furlongs or further, you make a good profit. And New Bay's have got an incredible record when they're sort of arriving at the races on the back of a top 3 effort. They hold their form really well. So I'll go Chancellor over Bay City Roller, but I'm no strong opinion in a juvenile race.
Happy days. 2-1 market leader at the moment, Chancellor, which is probably a fair enough price, as you said, Andrew, from the form that he's shown so far. Matty, welcome back. I don't know if you've got any news of engagements or otherwise from last week to help boost those likes, but at least if you give us the winner of the 150, the viewers will be happy.
Yeah, no, thanks for welcome back. Sadly, no more engagements for me. And also, thanks for mentioning Prague as well. I've just about got over that one. Not Danny Tudup's finest moment, but wait till you find out what I'm backing in the ledger as well. So redemption there. Anyways, yeah, onto the Champagne Stakes. As Andrew said, it's normally a race that throws up a future star. You've had the likes of Sunway Rosalien beating it last season. Chaldean won it in 2022. Silver Knot was behind him there. You had Bayside Boys, State of Rest was third to Chinned It. And of course, 2 Down Hot one in 2018. So it is a race where these kind of late season 2-year-olds do improve from into next season. And typically you want something that's already been proven at listed / group level. Only 2 horses have come out off the back of a novice or maiden prep. That was 8 years ago as well. So it tells you do want something more proven towards this level. So Wolf of Badenoch and Chancellor, they're the 2 that I kind of leaned on. But I'm more so with the Wolf of Badenoch, obviously second in the Vintage Stakes. That Iberian was also second in last season. Who went on to win the Champagne Stakes. Visually promising on debut, come from last affairs in typical James Spencer fashion. In a race that generally paid to be race up front as well. The runners who race in rear or midfield finished 6th, 7th, and 9th. So it did really well to overcome that. For obviously course form, bringing that too. And as you say, like I backed him in that race at Goodwood, and just looked such an unfurnished sort. Just broke slowly, ran really green, didn't quite handle the track, and once it came down the outside though, kind of corrected his stride, came down really well. I think if he had followed the Amora City on the inside, or the far side rail, I think he might have got a lot closer as well. And the absence of that one, I think he'd have gone very close in this race. So the absence of that one suggests that Wolf of Badenoch should at least go very close to winning.
I like it. Well, I'm in agreement with one of you, and it is Matty this week, because I do quite like the Wolf of Badenoch. I agree with you that Goodwood run, I'm happy to upgrade for the fact that did look a little bit green and a bit babyish. 46 days he's been off since then, isn't he? So I'm hoping that he's grown up, and he's the son of Pinatubo, isn't he? That took a little while before he started to win his group races. Actually won a Group 1 about this time of year, but I think it was maybe a few months after his debut that he won his first group race, which was a Group 2 for the dad. So Wolf of Badenoch for me and Matty in the first. Right, over to Chester, the oldest recognised racecourse that's still racing for the Guinness Book of Records. I think nearly 500 years they've been racing, which is a fact I didn't know until I Googled it earlier today. But we've got the Virgin Bet Stand Cup Stakes, a listed race over 1 mile, 4.5. Currently heavy at Chester at the moment, so it's well worth mentioning that. Ambiente Friendly was potentially coming here, wasn't he? But I don't think he ever really was. The absence of him now means that La Yakel is favourite for this race. Quite a short price favourite in some places, as short as 6 to 4. We've got Al Kareem, 2 to 1, second favourite in it, and then it's about 9 to 1 bar those. So Matty, Chester looks like it's heavy. Are you going to be using that to find your winner of the race?
Yes, I've got on my nose. It largely will depend on who will handle the ground better. But it's only a listed race in nature, and it looks like a very glorified handicap. La Yakel won a Class 2 last time out at Hamilton, beat a horse called Fairlack. Now, Fairlack is a very exposed Class 3, Class 4 sort of handicapper. And I don't think that's forms anywhere near good enough to jump it up in a listed company. For all he did go close to a certain lad last season who's got on to bigger and better things. So I think La Yakel's probably a short enough favourite at top of the market. But then you go down and you think, well, what's going to beat him? I mean, I know Al Kareem's got the form with Al-Azi, and he's probably worth his weight in gold at this level, but again, he just finds it a bit hard to win. Bergerac Road pulled his arms out last time out in the Ebor. Iron Lions has got a good chance. The one I did come back to was a Cristal Clere for John Nellen. Now, this is John Nellen's first run at over on the flat overseas. I think he's had 2 at Cheltenham, and so the fact that he's bringing him over here has to you've got to consider it. All 3 of his turf wins have come on either heavy ground or yielding ground. And his record at the distance, 2 thirds, 2 seconds, 2 wins and a 6th. Matched a career best RPR of 101 when second in listed company at Roscommon. And it was unsupervised track position there. Roscommon's a bit of a sharp track as well. So I think that Chester will suit. And I think he's got proven form at listed level. And if any of these do falter at a decent price, he could go well.
Nice. Price 33 to 1 on here, but although that may be not quite right. 25 to 1, it definitely is.
Yeah, 20 I think I can see now. That 33s was pre the final declarations.
Happy days, but at least 20 to 1 for Matty. Who knows? It may even drift and go off at a bigger price. But Cristal Clere in the 205. Andrew, we've got a horse with the name Yak in there, in Lucky Yakel. We've also got a bit of a Yak in Al Kareem, haven't we? But at least he's proven at this sort of company. How did you see this race? We've got 2 relatively short price one. 8 runners, only 3 places up for grabs, but it is big prices bar those front 2.
Yeah, the risk of attracting the attention of Chris Paul. I think I tipped Al Kareem for this race last year when he beat Blue Stocking, talking about how he was best in the autumn and best with cutting the ground, and I think he made all in that race. And he's got a solid chance again. La Yakel's not particularly well drawn in stall, ain't necessarily. Even in this size of field, the draw could play a part, but he does go well at this time of year and he loves the mud. The two I'll probably divide my stake between are Iron Lion, who had no chance from a high draw, and the Ebor. A small field and the mud is ideal for him. And the one that Matty mentioned, Cristal Clere. He's won 3 times on turf, every single time in the spring or the autumn. I love these sort of horses that you can put a line through when they run in June, July, August, but any other time, the sort of April, May, September, October period, they tend to come to life again. And I thought, he'd have a good chance with the ground in his favour. We know we're going to get some funny results when the ground's like this, particularly at a sharp track like Chester, where some horses just aren't going to handle it. So split stakes, Cristal Clere and Iron Lion.
I like it. And for the purpose of the fact that you and Matty have agreed on Cristal Clere, I'll just make that enforced. 20-1 top price for that. Iron Line at the time of recording is a top price 12-1. So good prices all round. Worth taking on those at the head of the market, we think. Now, back to Doncaster. It's the Portland. It's a heritage handicap. It is a proper race. 5.5 furlongs. We've got the max field of 22 potentially going in here. And it is an each way plus race with our sponsors, BetMGM. I think interestingly, when I did the trends beats for the cheat sheets for this, which you can find in the link in the description, 8 of the last 10 winners were drawn in stall 10 or higher. So with 22 runners in the field, you might be able to divide the field in half. For what it's worth, Holkham Bay was the big trends ticker, the only one that ticks everything for this particular race, and he got a draw in stall 12. So he'd be my idea of a bit of a play. But look, it's a big competitive handicap. Andrew, would you be sticking a couple of horses to take on the field in here?
Yeah, I mean, some other trends. Last time out, winners got a poor recent record in the last 10 renewals, just one winner from 32 runners. And those who contested a class 3 or lower race last time out, just 1 from 43. So top weights have done well if you fancy Al Bashir, one that I know Matty tipped in his column last time and just tuned at Beverley. Three wins from 12 in the last 10 years, a profit of £15.50. And it does generally pay to race fairly prominently, even though Doncaster traditionally favours horses who come from well off the back. The ones on my short list were 3 horses who ran well, who were poorly drawn at York, not necessarily running well, but certainly didn't have a chance because of the draw. They are Bergerac for Kevin Ryan, coming out of stall 14 today, I think. Vintage Clarets. Now, gun to my head, I don't think Vintage Clarets stays much beyond 5 furlongs, but he was 5th in this race last year. Bear in mind the Portland trip is 5 furlongs, 143 yards, so about 5 2/3 of a furlong. Jamie Spencer's booked, and with some firms offering 5, maybe even 6 places each way. From that high draw in stall 20, I think Spencer's just sort of creep through towards the rail and probably get in the first sort of half dozen. So I certainly wouldn't put you off backing Vintage Clarets each way or sticking that one in your place box. Worth mentioning as well that the likely pace, or certainly one of them, is going to come from stall 19 and high, your mate, Roy Barron's runner. I think he'll blast off down the near side, give those drawn high a nice toe into the race. Holkham Bay was the other one of those poorly drawn horses at York. I think he went off at 7-1 for that, JM. So the Symphony Stakes, the opener on day 1, won by JM Jungle when it was a massive advantage to be drawn low. Of the others, of sort of semi-interest, Get It, Stewards Cup winner, although he was well drawn that day. He was only 7th in this last year. Chagrin, who was poorly drawn at York and then came out to win well at Haydock, albeit from a good draw last week. I wanted to be against Dream Composer. He doesn't like flat tracks, really loves undulating tracks. Only 11th in this race last year. And the funny one is Aberama Gold, whose course record is 1st, 2nd, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 18th. That was this race last year, and 1st. Now, that bomb out last year is a slight concern, but he's £13 lower this time around. I think runs up 87 instead of 100. So given his overall course record, that stall 13 draw Aberama Gold could go well. So in order of preference, Bergerac, Vintage Clarets, and Aberama Gold.
Oh, I like it. Well, it's one of these types of races, isn't it? Where
and Holkham Bay. That's 4.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Holkham Bay as well. But you said there's 6 places up for grabs. It is one of these races, especially at the prices. You probably would be safe to have a couple of darts at it. Matty, you've got one dart in reserve, haven't you? Because Equilateral wasn't declared, and you would have had to follow yourself off the cliff and bet him. So in the absence of Equilateral, which cliff horses are you following in here?
Yeah, I'm going to begin with a public service announcement to Charlie Hills. Where is Equilateral? He should have gone to York in the race that JM Jungle won. Obviously, me and Andrew both tipped that up. So what was York's loss was supposed to be Doncaster's gain. All jocked up with Jamie Spencer, and again, he's not turned up. So as I say, if anyone does know where he is, please get in touch, and in the hope that he's okay. Anyways, yeah, you touched on the draw. Generally speaking, wants to be draw middle or high. As you say, only two winners have come from single figure draws. And in one of those races was the draw that the one that Chipstead won. It was actually drawn in start 12, then had it overturned. So technically, we've actually only had 9 winners if you think about it like that. So yeah, discount most of the low draws. I thought there was a bigger effort in Rumstar for Jonathan Portman. One of the only horses Andrew didn't mention, annoyingly, and. Group 3 winners, a 2-year-old, had good form last season, including a second length fifth in the Commonwealth Cup, a length defeat in the Hackwood, and a 3-length defeat in the Bengals Stakes too. And since being gelded, his form kind of tailed off. It's been a bit sketchy, but you can forgive that effort at Bath on heavy ground on the first time out. Then ran a solid race at Newbury, won second to Lethal Levi, and off a pound higher, who's now rated £11 higher after a very good winner. Was it last time out? I think it was. Came unstuck in the Wokingham, probably because I was carrying my cash on him. And but then his Stewards Cup one was really eye catching. We've touched on his podcast since that Steward Cup effort how those toward the far side and John and Rio just had no chance whatsoever. And it was kind of up the centre, shimmered along, bit stuck for room 2 out, and came home quite strongly. And then you think of the horses who follow that as well. You had Ramazan, Dare to Hope, Albashir, Rohan, Glenfinnan, Lethal Levi. All of them have franked the form since from that unfavourable start, from that unfavourable track position. So if Rumstar repeats that, and it was a good third last time out too, or fifth off top weight as well, giving lumps of weight away. So a repeat of any of those two efforts, I think, should see him go quite close here.
I like it. Just the one dart as well, and a pretty confident case made for Rumstar in the Portland for Matty. Right, back to Chester, where it's wet, definitely heavy at the moment. I imagine it's going to stay about the same. We're into a 2-mile Watergate Cup. It's a heritage handicap, so it's going to take all of the get in this 2-mile track, I think. We've got Tashkan in here as the top weight off of 108, sporting a first-time visor. We've also got a Willie Mullins runner in here, Mr. Escobar, who I'm sure will be popular just because of the trainer alone. He could be one for the name forecast because we've also got Roberto Escobar in here, but it's a 3-year-old plus race. All bar one runner is aged 6 or plus. So, Matty, I'm imagining that the race is not really set up for an unexposed type in here. We should have enough form to work out who's going to win it. So, who does win it?
I think it will be last year's winner, Tashkan. It's interesting the fact that obviously he won this off top weight last season for him on £3 higher, and you just think he must have been primed for a repeat. I know that this season he's shaped quite poorly. His only best effort came at York and beating 10 lengths, and I think that was his best effort as well. Beating 10 lengths, just didn't look quite in love with the game there. So I do hope that the first time visor does spark improvement. But he's also not had his ground all this season. He's a proper mudlark. He needs it soft. Record on soft or heavy ground. 4 wins, 4 thirds, 2 seconds, and a fourth from 13 efforts. So his record over distance 1.5, 2, 3.33 or 5. So I know these are his prime conditions now, and that can't be said for most of them either. So as I said, he's got to bounce back from 3 poor efforts this season, but in the hope that he's been primed for this again, it'll be Tashkan in the first time visor.
I like it. And there's quite a variance on prices for quite a few of the horses in here. Tashkan's as low as 5 to 1 and as big as 10 to 1. This is another each way plus race from sponsors BetMGM. We've got 13 runners in here, but they're paying 4 places, and quite a few firms are doing the same. Andrew, are you on the same lines of thinking that Tashkan will regain his crown?
Yeah, very possibly, though it's worth remembering that because this is run over a different distance to last year when it was run in late September over the Chester Cup trip of the extended 2 miles, 2.5 furlongs. And this is like a shade short of 2 miles. Whether that makes a difference or not remains to be seen. Vi's the first time, not a great stat for Born to See progeny, 1 winner from 23 runners, although most were at big prices. I quite like Emin, who of course won this 2 years ago, again over that extended 2 mile 2, and was second to Tashkan last year. I thought Tashkan would never win a race again, and he was always a horse to back each way when he was running in the mud in a Group 1 race. But yeah, he did me in this one, so I'll go Emin from stall 1. And I hope he can run well in this race for the 3rd time in a row. The other interesting one was Aquam for Ian Williams. Jimmy Sullivan taking the ride. Ran a good race from a difficult draw in the Chester Cup. Only beaten 2.5 lengths. Met trouble, reportedly finished lame, and then so it wasn't a difficult draw. It was still 6, but yes, but met trouble, finished lame, beaten 2.5 lengths by Zoffi. Hasn't been seen since. So it'll be interesting to see what the market makes of his chances after the absence. So certainly keep an eye on him with a view perhaps to backing him next time if he needs it. But I'll go Emin over Tashkent. Maybe do the reverse forecast, last year's 1-2.
I like it. So we've got the last couple of winners in here. I said there wasn't too many younger horses in here, and it looks like we know all we need to know. Just back previous winners of the race. Fingers crossed one of them will come in. Back to Doncaster now, the 3 o'clock. It's our penultimate race that's being covered on ITV. It's the Betfred Park Stakes, Group 2, over 7 furlongs. Looks a really, really good renewal to my eye. We've got 10 going to post. There's a bunch of 3-year-olds in here. We've got Lake Forest, who's been saved for this. Might have gone elsewhere, but it's coming here. Lead Artist that's fancied as well, but it's Kinross that does top the market. About a 2-to-1 poke, as big as 9-to-4, I think I can see in a place. I'm just going to give a quick mention before I come to you guys on this one, that Friend's topper for this one was Should Have Been a Ring. Came out on top, is about a 25-to-1 poke at the time of recording. Steps back up in trip, so I'm hoping that Should Have Been a Ring can outrun his odds. Still haven't even mentioned some of the other good runners in here. We've got Poet Master, who picked up the Group 2 Minstrel Stakes in July at the Curragh. He won the City of Doncaster handicap here last year. So like I say, there's an abundance of depth, I think, in this for it being a Group 2, Andrew. So where did you see the winner coming from?
Yeah, interesting race. So the last 10 winners all prepped in group company. Those that didn't win all from 14. Those who ran in a group race at York were 5 from 12. And those who finished in the top 5 in the group race at York were 5 from 9, although I don't think we got any qualifiers this year. I mean, Lake Forest would have probably finished in the top 5 in the group race at York, but he played up in the stalls, of course. And then Kinross was withdrawn late, last year's winner from York. But I'm quite surprised that Lead Artist isn't favourite ahead of Kinross for this one. I know he was pulled out last time because of soft ground. It's only just on the soft side at Donny, according to the the official verdict and the time of that first race today, the Fillies Nursery, and it will dry out between now and Saturday. I think Lead Artist is probably a Group 1 animal, and I think he'll start favourite, and he might just about win. Should Have Been a Ring. I will throw a few quid out each way, as I normally do. You probably need 6.5 furlongs rather than 6 or 7. Certainly, you can forgive his running the Sprint Cup at Haddock last week, as he was poorly drawn towards the near side when you had to be far side of centre. He came out of stall 14 that day, so put a line through that. Good run at York the time before, when I thought he was going to win and then perhaps didn't quite see out the 7. So yeah, what is he, 25-to-1, something like that, in terms of backing him for sort of 3 or 4 places. That might be the angle, but I'll go for Lead Artist as the winner.
I like it. However, I am going to shoehorn in that we've agreed on Should Have Been a Ring for the purpose of the video. So when Should Have Been a Ring wins, we can say it's 3 weeks on the spin, that if we agree, the horse goes in. Matty, are you in agreement with Should Have Been a Ring, Lead Artist, or is it someone else?
I mean, yeah, partial agreement with Should Have Been a Ring, actually. As you mentioned, 4 of the last 5 winners of this race came from the York Stakes at the Ebo meeting. And I think if Should Have Been a Ring was coming off the back of that, I know that it was in the Sprint Cup last week, it'd be a lot shorter in here. My only concern is that it was unable to capitalise on the no-show of Audience and Kinross, and couldn't beat rivals rated £8 and £7 lower. So for all he did place in that race, and it's a good pointer to this one, he still wasn't able to beat fairly exposed sorts.
Just going back to that, mate, I thought the draw might have had an impact there, because I know there was only 6 runners at the end, but Breege and Vaffatino, the winner and second, were like drawn 3 and 2, and he did challenge widest of all when you had to be right up against that far side rail. So maybe that was why he's kind of run petered out slightly when he looked like he was coming there to win it. I'm just watching the replay now, about furlong out. So
yeah, we know horses drawn toward this near side at York as well. For absolutely no chance at that meeting. So yeah, we'll go with that one. Yeah, and then Should Have Been a Ring. Then we'll go on the basis that he'd ran a good race from that draw. But
yeah, let's all nap it. Come on.
But the other one was Lake Forest, actually, and I know we're speaking hypothetically here, but had Lake Forest running that race, and I was upsetting the stalls, you'd imagine he'd have bolted up surely. And especially with that Audience. I mean, he was second to his Elite Status last time out, second to in a share in the time before that. 2 solid group horses within their own right, and he's been desperate for this step up and trip. I know the sire puts a lot of speed into it, but the downside is littered with stayers and milers. So I just think the step up to 7th firm will surely suit Lake Forest, and I'll have the forecast we should have been a ring.
I like it. Although devil's advocate, if Lake Forest hadn't have messed about in the stalls, then Audience probably wouldn't have got so fractious and he would have won. So there's all if, buts and maybes that could have happened.
Well, if my auntie had,
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, but I was trying to say it without saying the word.
But it's one of those where, like, it's a real good race, and obviously we had Montasub that went and won last week at a big prize. Sort of Frank's a bit of early season form for Kinross, and we know that he needs his runs this season. So, like, it is a really, really good race. We've got lead artist for Andrew, we've got Lake Forest for Matty, and then we're all in agreement that should have been a ring. Hopefully, can run a big race at 25-1. Right, we will move on to our last race we're covering from the ITV schedule. It is the St. Leger. It's a classic. It does get some stick, but it's a valuable race, and it's very important for especially the breeding side of things for National Hunt Racing as well as the flat. We've got Irish Oaks winner and Yorkshire Oaks runner-up You Got To Me that's been supplemented this week. Got £3 fillies allowance in here, and like I said, the race does get a bit of stick, but the £3 on there puts her top joint rated on weight adjusted ratings with Illinois, who's officially rated 116. That's one of 3 for Aidan O'Brien. He's got Jan Brugler in here as well, and Grosvenor Square. Of course, Ryan Moore won't be riding any of those because he's riding over in Ireland for the Irish Champion Stakes. We've got Sunway, who's been a popular name this week on socials. Lots of people saying that horse should be running pretty well. Dear a Mile, that's 4th in the Derbies, now got blinkers on, trying to recoup some of that form that looked like potentially he should have been progressing and been a better horse than maybe he has been. Looks a really fascinating renewal as far as I'm concerned. Quite an open affair, I think, although the market potentially would not agree with that. We've got Illinois in here as a 15-8 favourite, who I think looks short enough. The next 2 in the betting are also the Aidan O'Brien runners. So, Matty, are you with or against the Aidan O'Brien battalion?
I mean, we should all be with him, shouldn't we, in theory? The others are they're just a bit exposed, aren't they? I will get onto Wild Wolves in a moment, but there is one way that this race could develop. Grosvenor Square, if he just goes off from the front, like he has in the last twice, when we got caught by Tower of London, when Ryan Moore gave an absolute peach for a ride. But if he goes off from the front, like blisters off, and Gavin Ryan gets his fractions right, then there's a chance that he just might not come back to the field. I mean, I don't know, there's only 7 horses in the race. Some might play 3 if you're lucky on the day. It could just be an absolute stellar each way bet to nothing, Grosvenor Square. Illinois, I had him it was at the King George at Ascot, I think it was. And he just still looked like a massive raw baby. I know he's run well twice since. It reminds me of was it Denmark, who Aidan O'Brien had last season, the same colours. Complete rogue. Remember, he threw away the Melrose and he ran here as well. And just looked like an absolute, just nothing like what you think of a thoroughbred. And for whatever reason, I think Illinois will be a lot better next season once he got time to mentally develop and fill out. And I think 2-1 for a race of this nature, albeit quite a weak one, he's fairly skinny. Jan Brugel, 3 from 3 so far, hasn't done anything wrong. He's been very game in his career, but he's another one again who just thinks an archetypal 4-year-old, don't you? Can just very strong sort, still quite raw. And he'll be good next season. And the one that I just keep on coming back to, because I can't be confident any of the top market, is Wild Waves. And I know you might think I'm clutching at straws here, but but very good 4th in the Melrose. We've already touched on that York form about how it's impossible to come from rear, impossible to come from drawn wide. I mean, you look at the front 2 of the market. I know the equator was drawn wide, but it was prominent straight away. Table Talk always had that far side rail, and the front 2 were favoured massively. Master Bill has come out and Frank the form rated £10 higher now. And you think Andrew Bolden is the Coltrane in the Melrose, Valley Forge, there's some good horses in the Melrose. Coltrane's obviously going to be very, very talented group horse as well. And the Melrose does tend to throw up a good one, obviously Middle Earth, Solcombe, Coltrane, Hamish, Caius Chorister, even Tashka when he wasn't out of love with the game. And so you just think like that, it's one of the best 3-year-old handicaps about. And I do think that had Wild Waves not come from Stone last there, and he was ridden a bit more constrained, a bit more, he was drawn better, I think he would have probably won, if I'm honest. And then he'd be a lot shorter for this one. I mean, he would have gone up more in the weights. And obviously, Co's the winner of the course and distance handicap, given £5 to a subsequent winner rated £9 higher. So he has got form. I know he's got a lot to find in the figures. But if it is a strong pace step by Grosvenor Square, some of them do quite falter as well. It could just be the one to pick up some place money.
Redemption for Danny Tudhope from last week's ride on Prague from Matty at a staggering 100 to 1. Only about £20 to find on ratings, but that handicap you touched on, East India Dock runs in the Malad handicap on Friday, the 150. Ryan Moore dropped up on that. Lots of people expect that horse is going to sluice in, which means that this horse could look like it's pretty well. I know it's not a handicap, but could be pretty lightly marked at 95 if that does happen. So, Andrew, Matty's gone for the 100 to 1 outsider. Unfortunately, you can't beat that. But where's your money going in the St. Ledger?
Well, I've bet Wild Waves each way at 66 with the firm's offer in 3 places based on the fact that he was drawn poorly and he raced wide from he came from off the pace in the Melrose. And as you said, Master Builder, best of the closers in that race, has come out and won since. And again, on the round course at Doncaster, a bit like Newcastle, I don't like front runners. We did have a few of them earlier this year when the ground was very soft. But in the conditions we're going to get, I'd want to be against whatever leads, particularly if they migrate towards that far side rail. We see them coming late wide down the middle of the track. And the trouble is you've got 3 Aidan O'Brien horses who generally all make the running or sort of race in the first 2 throughout. So practically what's going to happen? Who's going to lead? Who's going to sort of sit there and get cover? So it might be, you know, one for sort of in running in terms of taking on or siding with an Aidan O'Brien runner. I like You Got To Me as well, who was forced very wide at York and ended up on the sort of mug part of the track when Ryan Moore laughed at his rivals and came through on the inside. Some way as well, another one who likes to come from off the pace. That's the running style I'm looking for at Donny. But looking at the price of those two, you're looking at sort of 6 to 1, 4 to 1, 3 places. So yeah, Wild Waves. I mean, you've got it. I don't think a horse who contested a handicap last time out has won a St. Ledger, certainly not this century anyway. So that's the worry. But of course, all you're looking for is a sort of 6-length third, and you're getting a nice place return. So Wild Waves each way for me.
I never saw that coming from 2 very esteemed judges. I know it's a big price and you're both known for it, but good case is made for Wild Waves. And as Andrew says, you don't necessarily need to bet the winner to make a profit in that race. So that wraps up the ITV races. I touched on it earlier. There's loads of good action everywhere, all over the world this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'll come back to you first, Andrew, if that's okay. Do you have anything from anywhere else?
Yeah, the 215 at Leopardstown, the Group 2 over a mile. This is a fascinating race because the Brits have got a brilliant record in it. 7 winners in the last 10 years. You make a fortune backing them all. Last year, there was one horse. I put it up as a bet, Flight Plan for Carl Burke, who was back from 10s into 15 to 2 and made all. Flight Plan goes again. I think he's about 25 to 1. There's 2 others, Maldoom. Try not to laugh when I say this one, but the deep-pocketed will be in for him again. But running out of excuses. And Poker Face for the Crisfords, who won this 2 years ago with Jadumi. This one's had 3 trips away from the UK before. Those produced 2 wins in a second. So I'll certainly be looking at playing the British trained runners in that race, except Maldoom, of course, who only the needy and greedy will want to punt at what will probably be a shortish price. The Champion Stakes is 325. I would love the rain to come for Royal Rhyme, who needs the mud, but just hasn't had it recently. And what's interesting here, Economics is a short price, but he's drawn wide. He's a hold-up horse. And this is a race where last year the British jockeys were made to look very foolish because you had to be on the front end. And like Holly Doyle, Jim Crowley, you know, were sort of made to look idiotic basically by the rides they gave their mounts. So it'll be interesting to see how Tom Marquand gets on Economics and whether the Irish do a job on him and sort of set it up for Auguste Rodin like last year, who beat Luxembourg. I mean, Auguste Rodin beaten last time, but he's 4 wins in the second from 5 runs following a defeat. And 515 Chef, the honourable mention for Plansman, who's got a great record in the autumn when the mud's flying. Might not see him get his head in front until he goes back to his beloved air, but with the ground at Chancellor described as heavy, I'd certainly give him a go in the 515.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for those, Andrew. You've been doing quite well with the stuff from anywhere else. Matty, no pressure, but like I say, Andrew's been doing well from anywhere else. Give us some winners from elsewhere, please, if you've got them.
Unfortunately, no, I'm going to leave the extra stuff to Andrew.
Oh, boo.
He's got a wedding to arrange. Come on, give the boy a break.
This is true. Right, I set you up to fail there. We'll move on to naps. I will go first on this one to give you boys time to think about it. I will be napping in the Portland. I will be going for Holkham Bay. Andrew, I'm coming back to you. Your nap for this weekend, please.
Oh, you know what? I never thought you were going to ask me that. I'll go Poker Face in the 215 at Leopardstown.
Yes, and Matty, your nap for the weekend?
Wolf of Badenoch in the first at Doncaster.
Fantastic. So we've given you lots to think about for this decent racing this Saturday. As I say, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're liking the video and drop a comment with what your best bet of the weekend is. We will be joined by Kate Tracy again next week. But for now, thank you very much for your support and have a good weekend.